On this episode of In the Fight. In the wake of recent terror attacks, military leaders reach out to our NATO partners. Aircraft, new and old, learn to share the skies. Combat cameramen train for the combat environment. We see how 1/1,000,000th of an inch can mean the difference between life and death. And we find out what it takes to be a combat engineer for the Missouri National Guard. With recent terrorist attacks so close to home, senior military leaders are reaching out to our NATO partners. Air Force Staff Sergeant Nancy Kasberg takes us to the headquarters of United States Air Forces in Europe for the details.
Leadership from 17 NATO countries got together at the International Fires Warfighter Forum. Their mission? To find solutions.
With some of the threats that we're facing today, particularly from the East, and as we observe conflicts that are ongoing in the Middle East and in Ukraine, so we as professionals are going to be in front of that.
Commander of Allied Land Command, Lieutenant General John Nicholson, says one solution is integrating with NATO countries.
We need joint enablers, joint solutions to these challenges, so you'll always see the land force operating with the Air Force and the maritime and the SOF as well. So having this conference here at Ramstein, bringing all the ground fires experts to Ramstein where they can sit down next to their Air Force brothers and sisters enables us to build this common understanding and unity of effort that we need.
You know, the friendship between countries is passed through the friendship from the person, or the people. So if we are able to communicate face by face, for sure we will be able to communicate country to country.
Nearly 100 personnel from partner nations took part in the International Fires Warfighter Forum. From inside the United States Air Forces in Europe headquarters, I'm Air Force Staff Sergeant Nancy Kasberg.
U.S. Marines partnered up with multiple countries for the NATO-led exercise Platinum Lynx. Together, these forces focused on mechanized integration, indirect fire techniques, and close air support intended to increase combat readiness and foster regional stability with allies and partner nations. Marine Lance Corporal Adam Edwards brings us this story.
The exercise we're conducting is Platinum Link. It's a multinational exercise that involves U.S. Marines, Romanians, and Moldovans. So the importance of this exercise in our NATO partnership is for the first time, a combined arms company consisting of tanks, light armor reconnaissance, engineer assets, and artillery is partnering with those same individuals on the multinational scale. So Moldovans, Romanians, we share each other's crafts.
Working with the Romanians with their vehicles and our vehicles being the M1A1s and their battle tanks is very important for us Marines to actually work together with other armored vehicles. The only difference is they speak a different language. This will be the first time I'll be working with Romanian tanks, and noticing the similarities in both our vehicles and effective fires that we both have, and knowing what we could bring to a battle. And I'm pretty amazed at how two different countries can come together with two different weapon systems.
This exercise definitely has many real-world applications, especially the theater that we are operating in right now. A very strategic location, and our NATO allies are looking for that support and that backbone, and they're getting that with our United States Marine Corps and Air Force counterparts with this live fire exercise.
These communities are able to come together and share their craft with each other, and that's a first in the Marine Corps history, and it's a first for a lot of these gentlemen out here. For us Tankers, this is the first time we've ever worked with any kind of foreign tankers. Working with Romanians who are highly professional and highly skilled, be able to share bonds and crafts with each other and help build interoperability between tank crewmen. It's been a great experience.
What makes fifth-generation fighter jets like the F-35 Lightning II and the F-22 Raptor so impressive isn't simply their stealth, electronic warfare, or sensor capabilities, but also how they elevate the performance of legacy aircraft sharing the skies. Air Force Staff Sergeant Russ Jackson tells us more in this report.
The Air Force prides itself in maintaining air supremacy. With the introduction of fifth-generation fighters to the fleet, the ability to integrate their capabilities with legacy aircraft is imperative to mission success. In support of Exercise Checkered Flag, multiple squadrons have made their way to Tyndall Air Force Base. Legacy aircraft play large but different roles, joining F-35s and F-22s to combat F-16s and T-38 aggressors.
We're here to provide world-class adversary air support for the Checkered Flag to test those contracts that the 5th gen and our 4th gen aircraft are executing, and to test them so they're ready for current and future threats that are out there.
The aggressors provided a common threat to allow jets like the 77th Fighter Squadron's F-16s to learn how to share the battle space with F-35s and F-22s.
Checkered Flag is an awesome opportunity. As far as I know, it's the first time the F-16, the F-35, and the F-22 outside of an operational tests environment have gotten together for what we call large force exercises, or LFEs. So really we're bridging 4th generation fighters like the F-16 and integrating 5th generation fighters like the F-22 and the F-35 in the crucible of a realistic scenario for the first time.
As the Air Force fleet expands to meet the challenges of increasing technology in warfare, 5th generation fighters bring their advancements to the battle space, changing the way we fight.
For the legacy airplanes, the 4th gen airplanes, the ability to integrate and fly with F-22s primarily, and in this instance the F-35s as well, is invaluable to them.
The 5th gen fighters just bring a whole different level of situational awareness to the fight. And one of the things that they're very good at in helping us is providing us some additional essay on what they are seeing in the entire battle space. They are able to provide us additional data that can at times help us survive in a fight, or another big part is increase our overall lethalities.
The biggest way that Checkered Flag helps people is through exposure. If you're an F-16 squadron at Shaw, you don't see F-35s or F-22s or the E-3, but to bring them all together in one place and to mission plan together and see what other people are thinking when they mission plan for combat gains everybody some increased capabilities in the long run.
Staff Sergeant Russ Jackson, Tyndall Air Force Base, Florida.
Hi, my name is Specialist Cecilia Pereira. I am at Camp Stanley, South Korea. I'd like to give a shout out to my husband Mike and my stepson Michael, who are back home in Atlanta, Georgia. I love you guys so much and I miss you and I can't wait to see you.
My name is Lance Corporal Nerberg. I'm from Edwardsburg, Michigan. I'm currently deployed to Al-Assad, Iraq with 1-7 Weapons Company. I would just like to tell my wife that I love her and happy anniversary, honey.
Coming up, combat cameramen trained for the combat environment. And we see how 1/1,000,000th of an inch can mean the difference between life and death. Check out DivotsHub.net for the latest accurate and reliable information as In the Fight continues. Which photographer captured the iconic flag raising on Iwo Jima? The answer when we return.
I want to give a shout out to my family and friends.
I want to send a shout out to my husband,
to my parents, my family back home.
I'd like to give a shout out to my girlfriend.
To my family and friends in Lansing, Michigan.
To my family out in Tucson, Arizona.
To my beautiful wife and children in Des Moines, Iowa.
To everybody in Texas.
In York, Pennsylvania.
Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Chicago, Illinois.
Harrisonburg, Virginia.
Orlando, Florida. Oceanside, California.
And Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
I love you guys. I miss you. And I hope I'll see you soon.
I am ready to fight for my country when called to action. I had pushed my mind and body to the limit. I've come face to face with the enemy. Spilled blood with my brothers and sisters. Helped others in their most desperate of times. I am prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. Want to see the world through my eyes?
Which photographer captured the iconic flag raising on Iwo Jima? The answer is A, Joe Rosenthal. The role of a combat cameraman is to take photos or video to help meet mission objectives or for preserving historical actions and events. Every combat cameraman must be ready to put down his or her camera and fight at a moment's notice. Staff Sergeant Ryan Ehrman takes us to an exercise where combat camera personnel train for the combat environment.
Quickshot is a joint forces exercise that is designed to equip combat cameramen with the knowledge and skills to be able to operate with special forces.
So you grip back a little bit?
The best thing that I've learned so far here is just how to flow and operate with that team as they enter into a building or any type of hostile situation. As that team works, now I kind of know where to place myself, not only to get the best shots, but also be of use, make myself an asset rather than, a liability during those engagements.
This is a course that actually allows you to jump into a team, stack up, rappel down a mountain, shoot with them, live fire in CQB. This is a course basically like no other.
Shoot.
For each branch, this is pretty much invaluable. This is something that every combat cameraman should go through because it's not just rucking through the mountains or shooting at a paper target. This is actually embedding with a team. This is what you need to know to actually be an accurate combat cameraman. It's strenuous. I mean, this is meant to really reenact a deployment lifestyle. This is not meant to be a picnic in the woods. This is hard work, but it's fun and it's rewarding.
From patrols to kicking in doors, the mission can change at a moment's notice for military police. Army Sergeant Puma Perry takes us to one field training exercise that's getting MPs ready for anything.
In today's unconventional battlefield, training on a variety of skills can be a matter of life or death. Soldiers from the 557th Military Police Company and 19th Expeditionary Sustainment Command spend 3 weeks at Area 1's Rodriguez Range live fire complex.
We're doing a hasty attack. It was a route recon. They were given a frago last minute, so they had 30 minutes to react to get on to Black Hawk Village in order to go through and conduct a hasty attack on the objective.
Over the 3-week period, the MP is focused on cordon and search procedures, clearing objectives, air assault operations, joint operations, and more training.
So it's very important that these guys have this kind of training because this is what we've been doing in the last 3 wars.
The training included a full spectrum of operations, from the planning stages to the aftermath of the mission.
It's good training because if I do go down range, there definitely could be a time where I would have to call up a 9-line for a real life situation, and the speed at which I call up a 9-line could save somebody's life. So the training on radios is definitely important. The training on hasty attacks, like what we did today, is extremely important.
Army Sergeant Puma Perry, the Rodriguez Range, Area 1, Korea.
When service members are severely injured in the field, medics rely on blood transfusions to keep those warfighters alive. Army Staff Sergeant Caitlin Jones shows us how medical lab technicians are making sure that blood supplies are always on hand.
Staff Sergeant Michael Griffith is in the blood business, and at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst in New Jersey, business is good.
Probably about 1,600 to 2,000 products a month that we'll receive and test.
Miles from the medical group, these medical lab technicians process hundreds of pints every week from locations around the continental United States. It's all part of being one of 2 Armed Services Whole Blood Processing Labs, or ASWABL East.
We basically store a lot of blood products here, and whenever the blood is needed at any of those locations, we ship it to them. Our biggest customer is CENTCOM. We send quite a few products there. We're the sole supplier of CENTCOM at this time.
After being received and tested, the blood moves from the lab to the flight line to begin its journey.
Everything that we do here, every choice that we make, every unit that we touch, we always keep the patient in mind. We always keep the warfighter in mind, because that's primarily what these products are for. Of course, just like any other job, things become routine. But it's when we get those reports of products that are used downrange, it's when we get those reports of the lives that are saved, that it really brings it back home to us and keeps us going, it keeps us motivated.
Making ASWABL East real business, the business of saving lives. Staff Sergeant Caitlin Jones, Joint Base McGuire-Dix-Lakehurst, New Jersey.
Precision down to 1/1,000,000th of an inch can mean the difference between life and death. Senior Airman Patrick Cole shows us how airmen at Seymour Johnson Air Base must have an attention to detail and a great deal of patience to keep planes in the air.
My name is Staff Sergeant John Loving. I am the NCO in charge of the Precision Measurement Equipment Lab Quality Assurance Program. And what I do is I'm in charge of evaluating the quality, end-of-line quality, and over-the-shoulder quality of all the items that we support here in this lab, which tends to be around 8,500 total. So what we do here in the lab is we calibrate test equipment that is used to verify the different functions and aiming systems and flight systems on the jet itself. How that is important is if we say something is measuring something to an accuracy, they're going to use that accuracy to ensure that the jet is doing what it's supposed to do. So if we say something is good, we know the jet's good. That is pretty much the basis of everything we do here. Everything is down to a very precise accuracy.
One of the coolest things we do here at PML is we work with a surface plate. This surface plate is extremely smooth, extremely flat. By a naked eye, you can't see any deviation at all. We can map out our surface plate, and by doing that, we magnify our lowest to highest point. So something that is virtually flat, we can now make it look like a mountain range. We deal with something called a micro-inch. It is 1/1,000,000th of an inch, and that allows us to take the most precise measurements that we can. To give you an example of what a micro-inch is, you would take an ordinary dime. You'd stack it 3 Empire State Buildings tall, and that would equal 1 inch. This single dime would equal 1 micro-inch. And that's how precise we are here at PML.
So while we may not be exactly on the jet itself, everything that they're using out there to service that jet is calibrated right here. We're kind of that unsung hero where you don't really know we're here until something bad goes down. So in that respect, the more that they don't know about us, the better we're doing our job.
Hey, this is PFC Hebert. I'm over at Camp Stanley in Uijeonbu, South Korea. I just want to say hey to my wife, Cassie Wolf, my daughter, Madison Grace, and my son, Henry, over at Panama City Beach, Florida. I love you guys and I miss you.
Hello, I am U.S. Marine Corporal Mitchell Howroyd. I'm currently deployed with Special Purpose Marine Air Ground Task Force Crisis Response Central Command in Al Taqadim, Iraq. I'd like to give a special shout out to my family and friends in New York.
I'm Specialist Tabora, and I'm stationed in Camp Stanley, Korea. And I just want to give a shout out to my family in Florida, and I can't wait to see you guys soon.
Coming up, we find out what it takes to be a combat engineer for the Missouri National Guard. And we'll showcase some of the best photos from our service members, as In the Fight, presented by Divids, continues. What is another name for a combat engineer? The answer when we return.
America's Navy
a global force for good.
From combat-related stress to the day-to-day stressors of life.
This package is going to be completed.
This is the 4th time this week.
Stress can affect every Marine and Marine family. The De-Stress Line provides anonymous counseling for Marines and Marine families when it's needed most. If you're feeling the effects of stress, call today and let us help you win your personal battles.
Hey, what's that pin you're wearing?
Oh, this. I wear it to remember my dad. He was in the Army.
I wear this pin for my husband, who was killed in action.
My son served his country proudly. Not a day goes by that I don't think about him.
She was my wife and best friend.
Remember, respect, and honor our fallen military heroes and the sacrifice and strength of surviving families who wear the Gold Star pins.
What is another name for a combat engineer? The answer is C, sapper. When you are face to face with the enemy and have no weapon, you must rely upon hand-to-hand combat. Luckily, soldiers with NATO's Kosovo force mission received close combat training in case such a situation arises. Army Sergeant David Marquis brings us this story.
Soldiers, regardless of what nation they represent, must always be ready to defend their comrades or themselves in any situation. And North Carolina National Guard soldiers stationed at Camp Marechal de la Tour de Tachigny in Kosovo are taking their hand-to-hand close combat skills to the next level under the instruction of Hungarian partners.
Today was a culmination event of about 7 weeks worth of work with our Hungarian KOI. Basically what we did is we organized training sessions where they would teach us their home nation defense techniques for close combat training. Would we be using it here very much? Probably not. But these are techniques that you can take home with you. Any kind of self-defense technique, in addition to what the Army teaches you, I think is just a force multiplier.
These soldiers are learning new skills while also building multinational relationships. One of the many unique benefits of serving as part of NATO's Kosovo Force mission.
Nowadays, the world can be unpredictable. We are teaching soldiers how to be prepared to protect themselves or protect the lives of their family in any situation.
Reporting from Camp Marechal de la Tour de Tachigny in Kosovo, I'm Army Sergeant David Marquis.
A combat engineer is a specialist who performs a variety of tasks under combat conditions. Combat engineers build, repair, and maintain buildings, roads, and power supplies. They also employ explosives for construction and demolition projects, and clear minefields using specialized vehicles. In our final story, we are introduced to the combat engineers of the Missouri National Guard.
Among the combat engineers are a specialized group of soldiers known as sappers. This term dates back hundreds of years to when trenches or saps were dug out in front of infantry troops near an enemy's fortress. Today, combat engineers focus more on emergency road clearance and sandbagging during local disasters, as well as route clearance and demolition during times of combat.
They clear the way. They're your mobility enhancers. So in other words, when the infantry is going forward to, let's say, assault an objective or to attack an enemy, the sappers would go in and make sure that the lanes are clear and that they have all the obstacles out of the way to make sure that the infantry can do their job.
Blowing holes through minefields, blowing up bridges, blowing big craters in the middle of an airport. Those are some of the tasks that sappers do.
A combat engineer stops the enemy by putting out obstacles, whether it's building a man-made obstacle, which could be anything from knocking down trees. We could take out bridges to slow the enemy down. We take out the enemy's obstacles, whether they have a minefield in place. Combat engineers can go in and clear the minefields, or take out just something as simple as concertina wire.
Since 2004, soldiers who complete the Sapper Leader course, which is operated by the U.S. Army Engineer School at Fort Leonard Wood, can wear the Sapper tab.
In order to wear the Sapper tab, there is a 28-day course you have to go through. It's insanely intense. People will compare it to Ranger School. People who have done both will say the sapper school is more intense. The guys wearing the tabs, they would be your varsity sappers. It's like wearing your Letterman jacket in high school. That's more or less what it's the equivalent of. It's saying, hey, I'm the best of the best that the Army has to offer when it comes to 12 Bravo tasks, which is, again, the combat engineers.
Fire in the hole!
That demo is not something we get to do more than once a year. Obviously, it's going to be an expensive task. It's going to be grueling and time-consuming to take care of it. All these soldiers out here, they need to get their hands on it. They need to understand how to put things together so that they operate correctly. And when you can do that, then if it's needed in a different type of environment, they'll be able to employ it in a safe and efficient manner and accomplish the task at hand.
The culmination of every year is the day that we get to go out and blow demo. That is the one fundamental task that sappers do that's different than anybody else. It's a certification process is what it is. So everyone needs to get out there, get their hands on it, make sure that they're tying their knots correctly, make sure that there's a standard safe distance. And it's also a great chance for my staff sergeants and sergeant first classes to really get out there and just mentor the soldiers.
Anytime you can bring that back to other soldiers and put that wealth of knowledge out there, it's a good thing. That's what we live and die by, is our ability to accomplish our mission. And anything that can better put us in that position is an excellent thing.
Divots is a 24/7 operation that provides a timely, accurate, and reliable connection between the media and the military serving worldwide. Through a network of over 200 portable satellite transmitters around the globe and a distribution hub in Atlanta, Georgia, Divots gives you access to the front lines with live and archived broadcast video, still imagery, and print products. Visit our website at divotshub.net and search through our enormous video and photo library. Register on our website to gain complete access to high-definition content, along with breaking news alerts and webcasts from top military officials. For questions or comments about In the Fight or Divots, you can email us at ondemand@divotshub.net or follow us on Twitter and Facebook. As we close, we feature some of the best photos that Divots has to offer as we listen to Eddie Horst's composition, Pangea. See you next time, In the Fight.